Right, so we're going to move away from the tourism perspective of the South African morning for just a moment. We are still live here in Sun City for what is day 2 of the TBCSA. It's the Tourism Business Council of South Africa Leadership Conference. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but we have to talk about what's coming up in December. How much is the ANC going to be willing to talk about right now as far as leadership is concerned? Earlier in the week, we heard reports that the ANC in KZN is backing Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. But when we had ANC KZN on our show earlier this week, they refused to give any names, saying the branches are going to decide. So if there is a nomination and it is Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma going up against President Ramaphosa, don't forget it will be the second time this is going to happen. So let's bring in political analyst, regular guest, Xolani Dube from the Xubera Institute joining us this morning. Xolani, good to have you back with us on eNCA. So I tried my hardest to get the ANC KZN to say yes or no to Dlamini-Zuma. They weren't willing to do it. But let's be honest, it's the 16th of September. They must have an idea of who they want in charge of the ANC. Good morning.
Morning, as well as to the viewers. I think the ANC in totality or as a whole is caught in a vortex of what you call it, chaotic confusion. And, you know, also I've just recently heard that even Jacob Zuma himself, you know, he decided to throw his name in this vortex of chaotic confusion. And so the people who are having a serious problem here is the KZN ANC. Why is it a serious problem? Because, you know, prior they went to the so-called provincial conference, they made certain promises. And so now they have to live up to those promises. But the problem, we know it very well, that this ANC KZN is a spineless leadership, you know, and the only thing that they thought that to become a leader for the province, and then that's the end. But they were not knowing that they have made some serious promises and they have to live up to those promises, because if they're not going to fulfill those promises, I don't think that they're going to last even in that office.
And when we talk about what could be the round 2 of this matchup, all those who followed ANC politics very closely at the last elective conference know just how close this race was between, obviously, we now have the President Ramaphosa, and Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, beg your pardon. It was extremely close, and knowing the support that the former President Jacob Zuma has in KZN, and of course the size of the ANC branches in KZN, could this be the election where we see a woman coming into ANC leadership? Is it time for a change of leadership and let it be led by a woman?
Look, we've been waiting for a leadership woman from the ANC to lead that organization, but we've not seen it. I think the patriarchal element of ANC always dominates in these conferences, you know. But the fact of the matter that we have to ask ourselves, what is Cyril Ramaphosa still relevant in the ANC? Is Cyril Ramaphosa still relevant in the power matrix in our country? Are those who are really power behind power still need him? And if they still really need him, I think he's going to become the president. Remember that Jacob Zuma also, there was a time where there was issues around him, but the conditions and the stability of the country dictated that, look, they need this man to be the president of the country for 2 terms. And when he was no longer that powerful, they simply disposed him. And so is Cyril still a useful fool to those who run this country or not? And those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. If he's still a useful fool, he's still going to proceed being the president regardless. And so these others who are competing with him, we have to ask ourselves, are they part of the broader agenda of those who control our country? If they are not, they have to accept it that they're not going to lead this country. And you could see that, especially in KZN, there is so much confusion. There is Jacob Zuma who wants to be who wants to go to the top 6. There is Nkosazana Zuma, and also there is Dr. Xolani Dube. And then the question is, where are the young people in the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal? Or also, there is also Mdumseni Ntuli, who also want to go to the top 6. And so there is so much confusion in the ANC as we speak, not only in KwaZulu-Natal, but throughout the whole country. Because if you look at
let me ask you, Xolani, about that as well, because you mentioned the youth vote a moment ago. You mentioned the youth. Forgive me, Xolani, I know there's a bit of a delay between you and I. Forgive me for interrupting. You mentioned youth as well, and that's where I wanted to go next. Very briefly, the former president, Jacob Zuma, as you've mentioned now, possibly wanting a position in the top 6. How realistic do you see that being, and what role would he serve if he were to get that right? Just as I say goodbye to you, final brief answer if you could.
Look, that's what I'm saying. ANC is a madhouse, it's like a psychiatric hospital, because that's where the people who are supposed to be mentoring young people, they are competing with young people. And young people are supposed to have been groomed, and young people are supposed to reflect on their mentoring. Now they are competing with people who are supposed to groom them. And so the issue in the ANC, I don't think that is an organization, but you have seen it, the ANC KZN, they met the EFF, as well as the Gauteng ANC, they've met the EFF. And so it's becoming kind of a federal organization where each and every member of the ANC is trying to save himself. And so it's no longer an organization, but it's just a conglomerate of individuals who are there trying to do whatever they can do in order to put something in their bottomless pocket. And so the issue of Jacob Zuma, I think, as I've said, ANC is so unpredictable nowadays. Why is it so unpredictable? Because it's the den of thieves. And so in the den of thieves, there is this say that there is no honor among thieves. And so we might not know how these thieves will be thinking towards that conference. Possibly they will say, look, we need Jacob Zuma for this particular purpose, us as thieves. And so I think the ANC really, without this, what we call it, leadership school, is in a serious chaos and is going to die very soon. But we've seen it now. It's dead already.
Yeah, and coming off the back of what's going to be very hotly contested and I'm sure confused political infighting for December this year, imagine the knock-on effect it's going to have for 2024 when we get to those elections. Xolani, it's so good to speak to you again. I appreciate your time. Xolani Dube from the Xubera Institute joining us this